Alright, so hey guys, welcome to the Warframe video, and today we're gonna take a quick look at Basmu, which is one of the two new weapons that was introduced with the Scarlet Spear operation. So you can buy the blueprint for the Basmu from Little Quack for 15,000 Scarlet credits, and once you do that, you will have to build it in your foundry for 25,000 credits, 1500 Copernics, 800 Pastros, 450 Isos, and 1 Nullstone. Now I know 15,000 may sound like a lot, but it's actually not too bad, especially when you take into account the bonus points you can get from hitting certain score thresholds in the two different missions. Now the weapon is actually kind of complicated, there's a lot of stuff going on with it, so let's check out what it can do and then we're gonna go over the stats. So the primary fire is full auto that fires projectiles which have travel time and sometimes explode on impact. They don't seem to explode every time. But it can also press the secondary fire, which will send out a beam that will chain between enemies. And the beam length here, by the way, is pretty short. Also, both fire modes seem to sort of tag enemies for what happens if you were to actually run out of ammo. Because you see, normally the weapon uses a battery magazine system, so we have 21 rounds and an insanely fast recharge time. However, if you completely drain your ammo, it will trigger a reload. But it's not just a normal reload, because during the reload you will have 3 pulses fly in and they will steal health from nearby enemies. And they steal a hell of a lot more if you first hit the enemies with either the primary or secondary fire. The healing is actually kind of insane, as you can see over here. It is capable of fully healing my Inaros, no problem. But there is a catch, the healing only works if you're standing on the ground. If you're in the air or you jump after you empty out your magazine, the pulses just won't happen. Now the primary fire does 39 electricity damage with a fire rate of 12 rounds per second, a 15% crit chance, a 2 times crit multiplier, and a 29% status chance, with the explosion damage doing 19 heat damage with a range of 1.7 meters, and the beam will do 12 electricity damage per tick with a 2% crit chance but a 4.8 times crit multiplier and 30% status chance. It's a really interesting combination of things, especially with the battery recharge being as fast as it is. Basically, as long as you're firing in controlled bursts, you will never have to reload. So you can very easily only use the reload if you need the healing from it. Now I've tried a bunch of different builds on the Basmu, and the one I ended up going with requires 3 Forma where you add 3 Vs, though this is with an Exilus mod, so I'm running Serration for damage, Split Chamber for multi-shot, Point Strike and Argon Scope for crit chance, Vitascence for crit damage, then I just put on Guided Ordnance because it fits the polarity, which for some reason is a V, but that is mostly because I run all 3 Vigilante mods on either my Sentinel or Moa, but if you don't run them there, just put in Vigilante supplies for the overcrit bonus, which will help a lot with Hunter munitions, which is something that I put on because I felt the weapon was sort of on the lower end of damage. It's not bad, but the damage isn't great, so here we will have some slash procs going on, and we chop it off with Rhyme Rounds and Malignant Force for viral. Now, while I did say that the weapon is sort of on the lower end of damage, it's still really good because, well, the high end at the moment is just very, very high. So the weapon still does more than enough damage to deal with anything you throw it at, it just won't do it as fast as something like a fully modded Redeemer Prime. Especially if you help it with a companion, so Vigilante mods on either a Moa or a Sentinel or even a Crit Cat, or you just run it with Harrow so you have way more crit chance. It's also pretty great for clearing groups of enemies because at the end of the day it is, well, I wouldn't really call it an explosive weapon, but it's a weapon with a little bit of AoE. And you know, you also never have to stop for a reload if you kind of get used to using controlled bursts. So in terms of functionality and usability, it's actually pretty great in a lot of different situations. And let's also not forget that if you do get chunked really hard by some beefier enemies, you can deliberately trigger the reload to heal yourself as well. So as I've said, while the damage isn't like Redeemer Prime high, it is high enough and it has a lot of other stuff going for it. Now, I already had the video pretty much done yesterday, but I decided to push it to today because I was a little bit undecided on how I feel about this weapon. Because I really enjoyed it when I first picked it up, it feels great, I like the rhythm on the fire rate and the sound. So good, but then as I started leveling it, I noticed that the damage was a little bit on the low end, but then I realized I've been playing with some really high-end weapons lately and I've been doing some min-max builds for them, so that may be why, so I decided to sit on it for a little bit. So in the end, I'm going to say yes, I do recommend you pick this weapon up because it's just awesome, it sounds great, it feels great, and while the damage isn't as high as on some other weapons that are just straight up ridiculous, it is high enough. There's just so much cool stuff going on with it. The only bad thing I can think of is the secondary fire far, the beam is pretty weak sauce if you don't have some form of additive crit bonus, so something like a crit cat, because the damage is mostly pretty mediocre with occasional spikes of insanity when you crit. But all the other stuff is just great, so most definitely pick this weapon up. And that is pretty much it for the video, so I thank you very much for watching. As always guys, I hope you have enjoyed it. Be safe, stay at home, don't be an idiot, and I will see you next time. Bye bye.